I wanted to be at Texas State. I chose to be at Texas State. I'm from Texas. That was important to me. I always knew if the right guy got this job, you better watch out.
You better watch out. This is Win Now or Get Bent, episode 129. If you don't already know, I'm Kev Tardello, coming to you on Tuesday, September 26th. And Nevada, either way, they were never going to keep up with the Bobcats, even with a 17-point lead. Texas State, largest comeback in FBS history for the Bobcats. First 3-1 start since 2013, a whole 10 years. Nice 35-24 win for Texas State. Really dicey first half. We'll dissect it. We'll litigate it. We'll talk all about that first half. We'll talk all about the second half as well. It got better, but that was tough to watch in the first half. Showed a lot about this team, though, being able to come back. That was at least a gritty way to pull that out. 3-1 still feels really good. It's hard to be too mad with that result, but there was plenty to unpack there, and we'll get there. Before we get there, though, this episode is sponsored by TGC, the Galindo Collective, TGC LLC. TheGalindoCollective.com, GALINDO, GalindoCollective.com, a team of professional consultants dedicated to helping others realize their business potential through people, planning, and practice. Their services cover a wide range of areas such as business strategy, marketing, human resources, and financial planning. If you own property or a business and want to maximize its profitability, contact TGC at TheGalindoCollective.com and follow their social media platforms at TGC_LLC on Twitter and on Instagram and Facebook, the Galindo Collective. Shout out to my guy Rick Galindo down there, true Texas State sicko, a Texas State grad himself. You've been hearing me talk about him all season long. They've been with us for this season. Can't thank the Galindo Collective enough for believing in us and jumping in on us. Hit them up for any of your business or property needs, the GalindoCollective.com, GALINDO, Galindo. We're also sponsored by Balcones Roofing and Remodeling, the most experienced F-Wave roofing contractor in Central Texas. F-Wave is a highly impact-resistant lifetime shingle with stunning designer curb appeal. It is the only roofing product on the market with an exclusive hail warranty. This weekend, there was some hail. There was a lot of hail around this area, specifically in Central Texas. So I'm sure Balcones Roofing and Remodeling is going to be pretty busy. But if that happened to you and you had the F-Wave, wouldn't be dealing with the insurance and dealing with all that stuff you'd have to if you had prepared and gotten this F-Wave shingle with its exclusive hail warranty. Shout out to Carl Larson down there at Balcones Roofing and Remodeling, a new sicko, a converted Gamecock. He's been pulling for the Bobcats. They're 3-1 since he started pulling for the Bobcats, so it's been working. Shout out to Carl. Hopefully he makes it out to a game soon. Hit them up at balconesroofsaustin.com. That's BALCONES, balconesroofsaustin.com, 512-937-8805. That's 512-937-8805. 8805. Give my guy a follow on Twitter at Balcones Roofing. On Twitter, he's a good follow. Appreciate you, Balcones Roofing and Remodeling. We are also sponsored by Thaddeus Watkins, San Marcos Edward Jones Financial Advisor. Does your financial advisor take the time to really listen to you? Is your financial strategy personalized to you and your family? Will your financial advisor be there as your life and financial situation change? When you work with Thaddeus Watkins, your San Marcos Edward Jones financial advisor, he focuses on what's important to you. You'll work together and use an established process to create a personalized financial strategy backed by the advice, tools, and resources to help you reach your goals. Contact Thaddeus Watkins at 737-373-8200. That's 737-373-8200 and at edwardjones.com/Thaddeus-Watkins. Give my guy a follow on Twitter as well at Big Thad, BIGGTHADD, 2 G's, 2 D's, and then an underscore at the end. Shout out to Thad, former Texas State player. Y'all should know who that is. Who better to protect your finances than a former Texas State offensive lineman? Hopefully y'all hit up Thad. Appreciate you, Thad. Always good running into you as well. And one more for us, our guys at Austin Patchmaster. Austin.patchmaster.com, one of our first sponsors. So glad they're back into the mix. Is your ceiling or wall cracked? Need that popcorn ceiling removed? Did you punch a hole in your wall after that 17-0 halftime lead the Wolfpack got out to on the Bobcats? It's okay. I was right there with you. Hit up my guy, Michael Clements. He can fix that for you. A true Tech State sicko, a Tech State grad. They are servicing the greater Austin area, and they can also provide referrals to other Patchmaster agents wherever you live in Texas, specifically Houston and Dallas. They can hook you up there. Shout out to my guy, Michael Clements there, true Tech State sicko, Tech State fan. Can't thank him enough for jumping back in and believing in us. Contact them at austin.patchmaster.com, and you can call them at 512-200-3888. It's 512-200-3888. All right. Thanks to all the sponsors. Appreciate y'all. But let's get to these Bobcats, though. We're going to start with a volleyball and soccer update. We'll talk a little Trident Gate. We'll talk that game, and then we'll talk some Sun Belt. Bobcats are jumping into the Sun Belt this week, so we're gonna get into some Sun Belt talk. And in years past during the season, I'd do a Sun Belt rundown during the preview. We're going to bring that back. I'm going to keep doing that. Now that we're back into Sun Belt Conference, I was kind of waiting for that because it's kind of pointless to go through the Sun Belt Conference standings and non-conference, but now there's some teams that played some conference games. Arkansas State got a conference win. They're on top of the West. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We all know we're a Wolves down pod over here. So got some thoughts about Arkansas State. But let's start with volleyball. 2-0 conference start. They had 2 wins over ULM. They swept ULM. Is that a sweep? 2 games? It's a 2-game series, and they won. They won both of them. So I'm gonna call that a sweep. If you're a sweep purist, feel free to sound off in the comments. I'll hear you out. I'll hear out your side. But for now, I'm gonna say that they swept ULM to start conference. Nice start to that. They needed that after they lost to Kansas before that one. But they are on the road this week, 2 games at James Madison. Soccer also starts out conference undefeated, but also without any wins. 2 ties to start out conference play. They're 6-3-2 on the season after consecutive ties, 0-0 against Arkansas State, and then 1-1 against Troy. No fun there. No fun in ties, and that happens with soccer. But yeah, let's talk about this football game. We'll jump into that. We'll start out with Trident Gate. If you just watched the broadcast and you're not a frequenter of Twitter, you may have missed Trident Gate, but never fear. We're here to give you a recap and maybe some cleanup too as well, because when it was all going down, the initial tweet, I should say, I didn't tweet about it because I didn't see it firsthand. So if I don't see it, I usually just don't talk about something like that. But the initial tweets going out said that a band member from Texas State took the trident from the Wolfpack. Now they have a turnover trident. Whenever one of their players gets a turnover, they get to pose with a trident. It's got a Nevada logo on it. I don't know what the significance of that is, especially for Nevada. As my great producer, the wizard Zachary Webb, pointed out, it's about as landlocked as you get in Nevada. I don't know what that's about. Maybe it's the alliteration, the T, turnover trident. But anyways, the initial report, I guess we'll call it, was that a Texas State band member grabbed the trident and threw it at Nevada players. And then an update came out that it was thrown into the stands. And then a further update came out that the band member, he took the trident and gave it to the Texas State student section, which is, there's way less assault in that version, which by all accounts is the real version. It's been documented. There's lots of Snapchat videos and lots of people in the stands taking pictures and everything and videos. So that seems like what it was. I mean, the fans are there like posing with it in the crowd. It got returned to the Wolfpack, obviously. It's also better that he didn't throw it at players. And it's good. I hope it's been cleared up enough from everybody, because that could be some pretty bad accusations against that young man. And I even saw somewhere that he may be in some trouble. I don't know this firsthand. Again, this is all I'm keeping up with it, just like y'all. But there was someone tweeted out that he could be in a lot of trouble with the band, maybe even expelled. I hope that's not the case, especially considering just handed it to the student section. It's not ideal. I think that's a Johnny Manziel punishment. Just give him. He can't play his instrument the first half, the next home game. And then halftime, especially if the Bobcats are down like they were in this one, because this happened when Texas State was down 17-0. Then they rattle off 35 points in the second half. I like to think he motivated some people. But shout out to the Trident guy. I hope he's not in a lot of trouble. That wouldn't be fun. Definitely shouldn't do that. Shouldn't take things from the other team and give it to the student section. It's hilarious. It's really funny that he did that. It was a turnover Trident, and he turned it over to the student section. Now it's Texas State's Trident now. College football it's a trip, and it was just another one of those storylines in these college football games that is always fun to talk about. But I hope the Trident guy isn't in trouble. Maybe fearless leader of this university, Dr. Kelly Damphus, can offer him a pardon. He's the president. That's what presidents do, right? I don't know. Do university presidents pardon the same way as the president of the United States? He's doing a lot of firsts here, so maybe that could be a first. But justice for Trident guy. Whatever his name is, I still don't know his name. I asked for his name. No one's given me a name. He may be, who knows? Who knows how he feels about the whole situation? This probably got blown up, and he's not thrilled about all the attention on it. But you should be. You're a legend now. The largest FBS comeback by the Bobcats, and it happened post-Trident. We won't call it a Trident toss. I think I called it a Trident toss at one point. Doesn't seem like he tossed it. It's a pretty dangerous thing to toss. It's a big Trident. 6 foot. It wasn't a little plastic toy. I mean, these guys hold it up, and it's. I think it's taller than them. But I'm thinking of the pictures. My good buddy Carl Schoening, he reached out to me and said he wants the Bobcats to have a turnover tube as their turnover trophy. I'm this might be Kef being an old man yelling at the clouds, get off my lawn type stuff, but I'm kind of over the turnover trophies, the turnover accoutrement, I don't think it's necessary. Turnover chain was where it first started with Miami, and it's taken on a ton of variations since. Texas State doesn't really need one. But, I'm also like an old man yelling at clouds. I'll leave that to the youths to decide. You youngins out there. It's not for me to decide. I'm no fun anymore. I'm washed. Trident Gate, though. Fun times. I'll tell you what wasn't fun was the first half of that game. 17-0, Bobcats fell. Watched the recap. Didn't want to watch the first half as a Texas State grad, but as a media member, I had to get in there, had to watch it. So I took away a bunch of notes from that first half, and I'll say this: during the game when it was 17-0 at halftime, wasn't great. That first half was very poor. But it was poor because of the Bobcats. It wasn't poor because of what Nevada was doing to Texas State. It was Texas State was shooting themselves in the foot, and we've said that a bunch about Texas State. This program over the years, we have said that phrase. They've shot themselves in the foot. And the difference is in years past, they shot themselves in the foot, and they just sat there and bled out. This team bandaged themselves up and got back into the game. And I mean, right off the bat, they shot themselves in the foot with that pick six. I mean, that was on the first drive. But that's why at halftime, I put out a tweet saying that was a bad first half. Not too concerned. I don't think Texas State is out of this game by any means because Nevada wasn't dominant. It was only a 17-point lead. We've seen this team. We literally saw them put up 77 last week. So I put out that tweet and I was like, yeah, I think Texas State's still in it. A lot of you came at me. Not a lot. There's a few of you. And I appreciate you. Continue to jump in my DMs and call me soft, or, not as, it wasn't that aggressive, but it's a roundabout way of saying it. That I was being too nice about that first half, and I wasn't being nice. I'm a critic of this team. If it's bad football, I'm going to tell you it's bad football. What I've seen through the first games, or at least the first three before that last first half, hasn't been bad football. And that's why I have been positive when I'm talking about them, because I've seen positive things on the field from this team. And that's the first time I've seen a team here in a long time go down 17-0, and I'm confident, like, okay, maybe they can come back. Maybe they can do it. They have the firepower to do that, and they proved it. They have the firepower to take down teams that have the caliber of talent like Nevada. They just can. They can overpower them if they decide to. In the first half, turnovers, penalties, just absolutely getting the pass protection was terrible. The 2 turnovers on fourth down in the second quarter, consecutive drives that happened, both of them in field goal range. So it's not just that the players weren't executing. There were some of those calls that weren't great. The first fourth down that they didn't get, I wasn't too terribly upset with. It was a 4th and 1. They just got stuffed. The 4th and 6, though, the next one, that was kick that field goal, take the points. But it didn't matter. It didn't end up mattering. They won 35-24. If they had lost, that would have been one of the first things I asked GJ Kinney after that game. But it wasn't. And that's why I was confident 17-0 that they could do it. It wasn't thrilled with the Bobcats' performance in that first half. But from what we've seen through this non-conference schedule, 17's not enough, especially when the team isn't to the they don't have the same level of athletes that Texas State had. There's a different story for the Wolfpack last year against Texas State. It's a different team this year. And you saw that on Saturday. I mean, it was a lot of fun. The comeback was a lot of fun. But that first half, let's talk about that first half. I mentioned that I took notes while watching the recap, and I actually wrote them down. Usually I write them on my computer, but I had an extra rambunctious daughter with me. She kept trying to want to type on the computer. So I'm going to be reading these from this. If you hear a page turning, if you're listening to the audio version, just didn't want y'all to be weirded out. But defense, just 1 sack the whole game. And this has been a defense that has been getting in the backfield a lot. Still doing a great job with TFLs. Did pretty good. I didn't write down how many this game. But just 1 sack, and it was on the very first play of the game. Tavian Coleman, he stopped Brendan Lewis, who was on a QB run. So it was just a 2-yard loss, 1 sack. So that played a lot into it. Brendan Lewis had a pretty good game. Nevada's quarterback, I say pretty good. Pretty good running the ball. In the preview, if you remember me talking about him, I said he's kind of a semi-dual threat. He can run a little bit. He showed he was a full dual threat on Saturday. Really took off and kept some of those drives alive. But the Wolfpack, first drive, they get 3 points. It seems, and that's something that's been commonplace with this defense. It seems that they tend to figure out what this offense is about in that first drive. Sometimes it's a touchdown, sometimes it's a field goal. And then once they figure them out more, they shut them down somewhat more. And that happened this game, even despite 17-0. A lot of that wasn't on the defense. It was miscues on the offense. I mean, those 5 first drives, it was interception, punt, turnover downs, fumble. Those are their 5 drives in the first half. So I put more onus on the offense with that. But that is something to keep an eye on with this defense, is that first drive. It seems teams have a lot of success. It's an interesting defense, feast or famine defense. I've talked about that before. They're either going to get a sack or it's going to be a completed pass. It's going to be a TFL, or it's going to be a first down run. They're very feast or famine with it. It's a lot of fun to watch. I haven't really seen a defense like that here. You had some pretty salty defenses with in the Dennis Franchione era, but not really like this. where it's very aggressive. It's just like, you know what? We're going to go get their quarterback. We're going to put the DBs in man coverage, and you have to beat us man to man. Mano y mano. You gotta take on this defense. And I love to watch it. I haven't decided if I fully believe in it, but I enjoy watching it. I enjoy taking notes and looking at this defensive line and seeing what they do, the types of stunts and everything, and who's going to blitz when and where. And it's a fun defense. It's an interesting defense, but it's very much a bend, don't break defense. But I am a fan. Yeah, pure tacklers. That's another thing I wrote. Pure tacklers on this defense. I've noticed that all 4 games, that it feels like a couple times a game, something opens up, whether it's a run play or a guy catches the ball in space. And in my head, I'm like, oh man, he's about to pick up a ton of yards, maybe even take it to the house. And they get shut down pretty quick. I see Sean Holton getting in there a lot. Brian Holloway getting in there, grabbing somebody's ankles before they can break away a ton of green in front of them, and they shut them down. So I like that about this defense. It's very aggressive, pure tacklers, but they're not pitching shutouts. It's just it's a defense that very much relies on the offense to get a lead. And if the offense gets a lead, then that's okay. They can maintain a lead and be aggressive, especially when the team, if the Bobcats get out to a good lead and the other team turns into a pass happy team, then they start teeing off. So it's give and take with the defense. Saw that more so in the first half. They got saltier in the second half, though. Offense, that very first drive, I mentioned it, pick 6 on that first drive. It looked good at the beginning. 10-play drive. How many yards? I know I wrote it. I didn't write it. I think it was like 73 yards. 10 plays, 73-yard drive to start the game, and it ends on a pick 6. KK Meyer intercepted the ball. It was underthrown ball. That seemed like a throw by a quarterback that practices against man coverage all the time, because it's that underneath safety, he's right there, and just lofted up for anybody to snag, and Meyer grabbed it. And even on the run back, I know a lot of people were saying Cole Wilson. I say a lot. There's just some people on Twitter were saying Cole Wilson should be benched for his effort on that pick 6. And it wasn't a great effort by any of them. In fact, it was a pretty slow run back. I thought it at the time when it happened live, and then when I watched it back, I was like, wow, I should have timed it. But it felt like it took him over 10 seconds to get to the end zone. It was a slow developing 98-yard play that I think part of that can be his first interception of the season for Texas State. First interception for TJ Finley since he got here. And that seemed like an offense that didn't know what to do when the ball got turned over. I think that's something they need to practice, where if there is an interception, get to the ball, tackle that guy. That shouldn't have been a 98-yarder. He was going way too slow. Somebody should have caught him. I know Mahdi tried. He's so fast. He almost got there. Terrific game by Mahdi. 216 yards rushing by Ishmael Mahdi. We'll talk about him more. But that was it completely flipped that game, because Nevada came out and they got a field goal right off the bat, like I was talking about. And then Texas State's chance, they were driving, looking good. Looked like it was going to be 6. 10-play drive, goes the other way for a touchdown. All of a sudden, it's 10-0. It was looking like it was about to be 7-3, and then it's 10-0 right there at the beginning of the first quarter. And then the next drive for Nevada, I know it started in the first quarter and ended in the second quarter. It was a long drive. On that drive, that's the note I wanted. Caleb Culp had an interception that was negated by a DPI, a penalty. That call was bad. I noticed that on the replay. Not a good call. It's a DPI on Sean Holton, a pass interference call. And that penalty aside, there were 9 penalties total, and there was 10 penalties total last week in that Jackson State win. And the UTSA game wasn't much better. After doing really well, I think it was just maybe a handful of penalties, if that, maybe just even 2 or 3 against Baylor. Ever since then, it's progressively gone up, and it was in some costly ones. Obviously, that one negated an interception, and even later on in that drive, there was a forced fumble, but that ball went out of bounds. That wasn't a penalty, but that kept that drive going. Otherwise, that's an interception, drives over, Bobcats have the ball. Instead, that drive keeps going. It's a long drive. It's like a 13-play drive, started in the first quarter, ends in the second quarter. There was that forced fumble earlier in the drive that goes out of bounds. Another forced fumble on the goal line that can't remember his name. Zach Welch, I do remember it. He lands on the fumble. Offensive lineman for Nevada lands on the fumble in the end zone for a Wolfpack touchdown. And now, once again, this drive should have been ended on that interception after that bad call. And then it was almost ended again on that fumble that goes out of bounds. And then it's another fumble, forced fumble, at the 1. The ball rolls into the end zone. The offensive lineman lands on it, and they call touchdown. And at the time, when I'm typing it up and everything, I assumed he was on his way into the end zone, and the offensive lineman jumped on it. But on the replay, I'm looking, I'm like, that's not a touchdown. The old Fumblerooski deal from the Raiders. My Raiders not doing so great. Awful Sunday Night Football. I won't get into that. But the Fumblerooski, where they fumble the ball forward. I think it's like Dave Casper kicks it into the end zone, and they jump on it. The play was about to be dead at the 12 or so, and they roll it into the end zone. The game's over on a fumble, a fumble that was intentionally rolled forward. And ever since then, offense can't recover a fumble that gains yards. They can't get those yards. So there's not a situation where they obviously were pushing the ball forward after it was fumbled to get more yards. Can't do that anymore. So I don't know. Maybe it's a different rule for the goal line. I'm not sure, but that's strange. Either way, 17-0. That's how the Bobcats go down, 17-0. And none of that inspired a ton of confidence in me when looking at the Wolfpack. When looking at Nevada, I wasn't like, oh man, they're dominant. They're way better than everybody expected. They're already up 17-0, and Texas State is toast. I didn't have that feeling at all. It was like, wow, Texas State really let this team that they shouldn't have into this game. That game should have been a blowout. It was a 17.5 point advantage for Texas State as far if you're what were they, minus 17 or plus 17.5. Minus. I'm not used to it with the Bobcats being favored, but minus 17.5 in that game. It should have been well over that, especially when they rattle off 5 touchdowns like they do in the second half, which we'll talk about as well. Another a 4th and 1 they converted on that drive as well. That touchdown drive. There were 3 times it could have 4 times it should have ended. Texas State 0 for 2 on 4th down in the second quarter. I mentioned the QB sneak on 4th and 1. That was the first one. This was after they scored. They're down 17-0. They tried the QB sneak, the old tush push. Didn't work out. Finley stuffed. That would have been, what was it, a 31-yarder? That would have been a 35-yard field goal. Nevada, they don't score the next drive. Bobcats get it again. Get back into Wolfpack territory. Drive comes up short again. 4th and 5, 4th and 6. Broadcast said 4th and 5. I think it said 4th and 6 in the box score, so who knows. And they go for it. They could have kicked the field goal, get some points, get that goose egg off the scoreboard. Instead, they go for it. They don't get it. And that's the 17-0 deficit at halftime. So it's a combination of things. The turnovers, that interception. It's not like Finley didn't have another interception the rest of the game. That's something need to do more practice of zone coverages, I think, in that situation. Because whenever he throws in the middle of the field, he's very successful. There's a Cole Wilson touchdown we're about to talk about. That's something my guy, the Wizard, Zachary Webb, he brought that up to me. He's like, man, TJ Finley loves the middle of the field. And he's right. He sure does. I know QB Spotlight, they do a podcast talking about quarterbacks, college quarterbacks. Shout out to them. He was even spotlighting some of that from TJ Finley. I don't remember the stats right off the top of my head, but go check out their channel. He's got some good stuff about TJ throwing it down the middle. I think he's 14 for 16 down the middle. So really good stuff from TJ Finley. But it's the combination of all those turnovers, penalties, and the miscues in coaching. going for it in that situation when you should take points. That didn't happen in the second half. The aggression came back in the second half, but that first half, it's still concerning because they've started slow in almost all the games. They started the 3-and-out against Baylor, didn't do anything on its first 4 drives against UTSA. It's hard to say slow start against Jackson State when they put up 77, but if you remember, there was a time in that game in the first half, it was 28-20. They got up by a couple scores, and they let Jackson State get back into a little bit until they exploded towards the end of that second quarter. So the first half has been a bit of an acclimation period for this team. Despite being 3-1, they aren't necessarily coming out of the gate hot. And I think that's something that they were somewhat successful with at Jackson State, but that's something that needs to be figured out. That fast start, because as I said, this defense needs a lead to be truly successful. That's where I mean, you could say that really about any defense, I know, but the way this defense plays, the aggressive nature of this defense, they're not going to pitch shutouts. They just need to stop the other team more than their team scores. So they need to score quick. If that's the philosophy, that's how it goes, then they need to get points on the board fast. But it's not all on players. I know they'll talk about execution quite a lot. Got to execute on these plays, but some of that is calls out there that need to be cleaned up a little bit, and the penalties that needs to be cleaned up in practice. Whatever was said at halftime maybe needs to be moved to the pregame speech. Really get after it and harp on the discipline. Because and these guys, it's a young coaching staff. They're very much players coaches. And that's a good thing. Players love that, obviously. Why wouldn't they? They're players coaches. They have a really good relationship with their players. They care about their players a lot. But sometimes with those staffs, the discipline can lack a little bit. And I think that needs to be tightened up. As far as getting after them and cleaning up these penalties, cleaning up the mistakes. If they fear retribution for their mistakes, they're less likely to make it. Something to think about. But first half, not great. Second half was a lot of fun. I much more enjoyed the second half of that game. Let's talk about that. First drive of the second half, 10 plays, touchdown to Joey Hobart, 25-yard touchdown. Awesome catch, awesome throw. I feel like Finley needed that for his confidence. The team needed that. Kenny even said that at the press conference, that they needed a special player to spark this team, to motivate everybody. And that touchdown by Joey Hobart seemed to really do that. It led to a really strong finish by them. Next drive's at 77-yard touchdown to Cole Wilson. Middle of the field pass, as we were talking about. Awesome move by Cole Wilson. Just a foot race, beat everybody to the end zone. All of a sudden, it's 17-14, halfway through the third. That lead completely evaporated after a fumble recovery. Texas State, one of 2 fumble recoveries in the second half. That led to Ishmael Mahdi's touchdown, his first one. Nobody was catching him. I mentioned that 216 yards, 2 touchdowns for Mahdi. That was the first one. Gave the Bobcats the lead. Its first lead of the game with 51 seconds left in the third quarter. That 17-0 deficit gone, evaporated after 1 quarter. Always fun to see that. It was fun to see a team that has the firepower to do that, the grit to do that, to go down and come out in the second half and just lay it on them. But another fumble recovery led to another Mahdi touchdown. And that's when it started to really blow it wide open. It's 28-17 at that point. Bobcats got a little fancy with it in the fourth quarter. Brought Malik Hornsby out. Ooh, you know what? Talking about Malik Hornsby makes me want to backtrack just a little bit and talk about that interception with Finley from the very, very first drive, first quarter, that pick 6. The very next series was Malik Hornsby. First interception by TJ Finley. The very next play, under center, is Malik Hornsby. I thought that was fascinating. It shows that there is a really short leash, even if that was just a warning shot to TJ Finley. that was pretty telling. That you messed up, Malik's going to get in there. If the fear of retribution may have better results. And he played better after that, so he took it the right way. But I thought that was interesting. That was the first time we saw G.J. Kinney have to make that decision. Okay, Finley isn't doing so well. That's a turnover on him. His fault. It was a bad throw. Gotta pull him. And he pulled him. And I think it was a warning shot. Obviously, didn't keep Hornsby in the rest of the game. But that's going to be telling, because if it does, say it does start to avalanche the interceptions on Finley, I wouldn't put it past G.J. Kinney to bench him. Even though he's been playing supremely well, he has earned being the starter. He is QB1 in my mind. Even when we see Malik Hornsby, he does some terrific stuff himself. I still look at Finley and I'm like, that's the guy. It's nice that they have packages for both. And even now, I'm really glad I went back and talked about it, because when Malik Hornsby came in, that one play, right off the bat, delay a game. Backed him up 5 yards, 1st and 15 instead of 1st and 10. And thus in lies the problem with a 2-quarterback system. Even if you have if you have packages set up for when the other quarterback gets into the game, it's not what these guys have practiced most of the time. They're not fully used to it, especially if it's, okay, interception happened, let's throw out another quarterback where no one's really expecting it until it happens. Oh, where do I go? Where I go here, you go there. It changes things up, because you go from a in the pocket passer with Finley to a guy who's probably going to take off in Malik Hornsby. It changes a lot, and that led to a delay in game. And that could be that's one of the problems with a 2-quarterback system. That's why it's if you have a nice lead, it's good to put in that package and really put your foot on their throat and finish this game with a Malik Hornsby touchdown, as they did when they put him in the fourth quarter. But I think it will create more problems than it'll fix. If you're trying to clean up penalties, that's not going to help. Because and then even I think of the offensive linemen a lot when I think about the quarterback changing, because obviously it changes for the receivers as well. If there's not a whole lot of passing, they got to almost block more. But the offensive linemen, they go from on a play that starts out with them in pass protection, but then Hornsby takes off, so then they got to come down and block down on the run. It just it changes it. It's a different deal from. It's not a worse deal. It's nothing. They can still achieve what they need to. It changes it. And when there's a lot of that change, you're not going to get that consistency in a game if they're constantly having to go back and forth from these schemes and these philosophies. That's why I was fine with, we didn't really see Hornsby until Jackson State. And I'm okay with that, staying consistent at that quarterback position. That being said, Hornsby getting in there in the fourth quarter was a lot of fun, because that was a package. Make sure you go check out our cinematic recap of the game if you haven't already. That is already out. I think it is fantastic. It's another banger from our guy Zach Webb. I think I'm getting that narrator voice down. You guys let me know. Let me know what you think about it. I found a nice middle ground with it. Somewhere between Batman and Liev Schreiber on the narrator voice. That's what I'm going for. But it's terrific. And on that one, on this Malik Hornsby touchdown, you can really see all the trickeration and everything that went into that play, where it was both the quarterbacks were out there, TJ Finley and Malik Hornsby. It looked like the ball was going to get snapped to Finley first. Then they all do little pirouettes. They all do little turns, little dance moves and switch positions. And then all of a sudden you have Malik Hornsby looking like he's going to take the snap. You have TJ Finley next to him, and you have Trenton Scott out wide as well. He's the left tackle, a little bit in front of Finley. The ball gets snapped, and Finley puts his hands in the air like he's going to get a pass. Trenton Scott looks like he's going to block for Finley, and it's all just smoke and mirrors, because then Malik Hornsby takes off up the middle, 13-yard touchdown. Bobcats put it away, 35-24. Because the Wolfpack got in there one last time on a one final drive. That's what made it 24. And even then, their quarterback, Brandon Lewis, who I was talking about, is from Texas, from Melissa, Texas. He got knocked out of the game. 2 minutes and 30 seconds left, somewhere around there. He got knocked out of that game. So that's a third quarterback that's been knocked out of the game. It's Blake Shapen for Baylor. It's Frank Harris for UTSA, and now Brandon Lewis for Nevada. Jason Brown for Jackson State. He only played one half. I mean, that game was so out of hand, he didn't play the second half. But this defense, it's an aggressive defense. Feast or famine, as I said. They're aggressive. They're going to go after it. They're trying to stop the play before it even gets going. Whether it's a pass or a run, they want to stop it behind the line of scrimmage. And that's an aggressive style, and it wears on guys because it wasn't one specific hit that knocked out Lewis or even Shapen. It did look like one specific hit that knocked out Frank Harris. Turf toe. It's the official report. But it's the accumulation of all these blows throughout the game that this quarterback takes. It's like a big tree that they just slowly chop away at. Then all of a sudden they can't go anymore. The tree falls over. And I really like that part about this defense. Very aggressive, and it hurts quarterbacks, hurts the other team. They got to get hit a lot. So yeah, that final touchdown was scored by the backup quarterback. 2-yard run by him. But all in all, it's learned a lot about this team in this game. I feel like I learned more from this one game than I did the other three. Now, I think I learned as much as I did because of the other 3 games that preceded it. I knew what I knew, but I still had questions, and some of those questions were answered. And the biggest thing that I took away from that game is that the toughest opponent Texas State is going to face this season is itself. It's got a very an aggressive style on both sides of the ball, and sometimes that high risk doesn't always have high reward. It's a lot of risk, but I'm one where I like the risk because of how big the reward can get. So I'm not knocking it. I'm not criticizing it. I'm more so just observing this aspect of it, that if they are going to lose games, it's going to be at their own hands. It's going to be because of literally, and it seems like a vague thing for a coach and players to say when they're in press conference and they're like, it's all about execution. It's about our job. Do your job. If we execute, they can't stop us. And it's vague, but it's also true. And what that means is if they have the proper athletes and they have the proper system. They have high caliber athletes in a system that needs high caliber athletes. Because the point of on both sides of the ball is our athletes are better than yours. Watch this. That's what it is. We're going to put our receivers all the way by the sideline because we can give them all that space and they'll know what to do with it. We're going to bring a whole lot of guys at you because your guys aren't going to be able to block, and they're going to shut down your quarterback. That's how the philosophy of this team works. That we have better players than you, and so you have to have better players. They went out and they did that in the transfer portal, and they got that. And a way that these aggressive teams really can hurt themselves is exactly what we saw in that first half on Saturday. Penalties, turnovers, miscues, just not executing. If they do that, then the plan works. You execute the plan. So it's a vague thing that they say, but that's why they say it all the time. Is that it's literally like they have to hit it exactly right for it to work, or it blows up in their face. Too aggressive, and sometimes it goes back the other way. Saw that in the first half. It's still a lot of fun to watch. It's more a 3-1. Like I said, 3-1. Haven't been 3-1 in 10 years. That was the most fun I've had in non-conference in a long time. Partially because I got to go to all games. It was in Baylor, UTSA, the last 2 at home. I was able to be there. It was a lot of fun to be there in person and to witness this. It's It's still early in the season, but it's gearing up to be one of the most fun teams I've got to cover here. It's been a great season. We'll see how the rest of it shakes out. That non-conference slate was a lot of fun. So even though I say these things like they can be their own worst enemy, I don't think that's anything that they don't realize themselves. And if anything, I think that's a compliment, because I think their toughest opponents may be behind them. No offense to Louisiana, Troy, South Alabama, some good Sun Belt teams that they're facing. And maybe I'm wrong there looking at UTSA 1-3. It's tough. They really hemorrhaged their season for one Texas State win. I'll say this, before the season, I wanted a UTSA win more than anything when I was looking at that. And now with non-conference in the rearview mirror and Texas State at 3-1, I would much rather take 3-1 with that loss than 1-3 with that win. Because I kind of forgot what 3-1 felt like. I didn't remember it. Been a long time. Now that we're here, 3-1, halfway to bowl eligibility, haven't even played a conference game yet. It's fantastic. So I'll take that trade. It's kind of nice of Texas State. They're down really bad in San Antonio. They needed that win. It's good. It's good charity win. Bobcats gave them that. That's what we're going to go with from here on out. Shout out to the Birds. Hopefully Frank Harris comes back soon. Let's take a look at some stats though from that game. I really wanted to pull up some of TJ Finley's stats to look at that. 25 for 31, 295 yards, 2 touchdowns, and that interception. He still hasn't gotten over 300 yards, but he keeps getting close. But that completion percentage is great. That one interception aside, it was a really good game. The blocking wasn't 100% there. Joey Hobart, 9 catches, 90 yards, a touchdown. Ashton Hawkins, 6 catches, 49 yards. Cole Wilson, 4 catches, 93 yards. They spread this ball around. Spread it around. I mean, what is this? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different receivers this game. That seems like the case for most of these games. 216 yards rushing from Mahdi. He got the bulk. There's 34 total carries. He got 21 of them. Jeter got in there for 23 yards, 3 carries. Finley had 5 carries, 22. Hornsby 1 for 13, touchdown. Davenport 2 for 3 yards. And Calvin Hill 1 for 1. Still strange. We didn't see Calvin Hill at Jackson State after they unloaded the bench and played just about everybody, but no Calvin Hill. And he was there in pads, and they gave him a carry, so he's healthy. Maybe there's a small lingering injury there. Maybe they just want to try out other guys. We've asked about it, don't get a really clear answer. They don't that's the way they operate. These coaches, specifically GJ Kinney, is they're not going to give you a ton in these press conferences. They button up. They're a little more loose when the cameras are off. When those cameras are on, they're not talking a whole lot. But it was another game with over 500 yards for Tech State, 574 total yards. That was really good. It's the penalties. I mean, 9 for 79 yards. That's the main thing. Turnovers, obviously you want to clean those up, but those penalties, man, it's back to back. It's 19 penalties the last 2 games. It's way too many. No matter what you think about officiating, if you want to blame the refs for some of those bad calls, I know I did earlier on that DPI on Sean Holton, but that was just one. There were 8 other penalties. So there's a lot they need to do. Let's take it. While I'm here, while I'm already looking at my tabs, let's look at the Sun Belt standings just real quick. We won't do a full Sun Belt rundown. So I'm going to get you. There's going to be an extra episode this week. Surprise! If you made it this far, you get to hear about this one. I interviewed Derek Osman, the tight end, Broken Arrow tight end that committed to Texas State, flipped his commit from Tulsa. I interviewed him. So we're going to do an episode in the middle of the week before the preview that'll feature that as well. So look out for that one. But that's when I'll do the Sun Belt rundown. I'll do an intro on that one and talk about everything that's going down a little further. But for now, let's look at it. The East Division, you got Georgia State and James Madison tied on the top, both 1-0 in conference, 4-0 overall. Old Dominion at number 3 in the East, they're also 1-0 in conference, 2-2 overall. 1-0 because they beat Louisiana, which was kind of surprising. 3-0 Marshall, hadn't played a conference game. 3-1 Georgia Southern, hadn't played a conference game. 2-2 App State, no conference game. 2-2 Coastal, no conference game. Jumping over to the West, the tippy top is a little bit of a shocker. The Arkansas State Red Wolves, almost called them the Wolfpack. Sorry, I've been prepping for Nevada for over a week. But the Red Wolves of Arkansas State, they are 1-0 in conference, so there they are, sitting on top of the West Division. Texas State right below them though, 3-1, because Arkansas State's 2-2. Won the last two. Started out 0-2. A lot of questions about Butch Jones, and not so much anymore. But yeah, Louisiana 3-1. They're a really good 3-1 though. Mentioned that Old Dominion loss. That's going to be a tough one for the Bobcats. They have Southern Miss this week. I'm pretty confident in the Southern Miss game for Texas State. I know in fall camp when I was doing my season prediction at 6-6, pretty sure I had them losing to Southern Miss, and then losing Louisiana after starting 3-1 non-conference. But I think I'm ready to change that one, especially after seeing Southern Miss lose to Arkansas State. That was Arkansas State's conference win. They're 1-3 also. They're not a great start for Will Hall's Southern Miss Golden Eagles. But yeah, behind Louisiana's ULM at 2-1, South Alabama's 2-2. Troy is 2-2, two teams that were expected to have better starts than that. And then Southern Miss at the very bottom of the West, Texas State's opponent this week. Pretty sure Texas State's favored. Let's go. Let's check it out right here, right now. You can figure it out with me, but I'm pretty sure I saw somewhere that Texas State was favored by like a touchdown or so. Let's see. What do you got for me right here? Texas State is -7. Yep, Texas State favored by a touchdown. So, and that's recording this on Monday. So that line could change. Changes quite often. Yeah, but looking at it's non-conference. Not everybody's played a conference game. Texas State hasn't yet. Looking at those early standings, it gives some optimism for the Bobcats that they can get near the top or to the top. I mean, right now it's Arkansas State at the top at 2-2. I think Texas State's a better team than Arkansas State. I don't know if they're better than Louisiana, and that's a team that's right below the Bobcats. But interesting stuff. Both East and West aren't shaken up as expected in some of those preseason coaches' polls. Like I said, middle episode week with Derek Osmond, Texas State commit. We'll do a nice little Sun Belt rundown, go a little further into some of the games that some of these teams have played, these early conference games that went down this weekend and last weekend. But yeah, all in all, it was my summation of the game. This team's got a lot of grit, got a lot of flaws too. They got more grit than flaws, and I think that's what you need. I think that's a winning formula for these Bobcats. I'm still very confident in this team. I said earlier, it could be the most fun team I've covered. Been covering the Bobcats since 2008. So I was a student at Texas State. This is a pretty exciting brand of football on both sides of the ball. And I have a good feeling for the rest of the season for this team. You know, keep showing that grit more than those flaws, though, and I'll really like it. Lots of firepower too, because that man Ishmael Mahdi. Let me talk about him before I do the outro. Ishmael Mahdi. We spent a lot of time talking about who's the fastest on the team. You know, summer talk. You got to get that summer content when nothing's going on. Who's the fastest on the team? Is it Malik Hornsby? Is it Drew Donnelly? There's no way anyone's faster than Mahdi. He gets the ball and it's 20 yards like that. I mean, I don't know. That 13-yard score by Hornsby is pretty sweet too. If you go back and look at that, I mean, he's between the center and the guard before they even know what's happening. He took that snap from the shotgun, just took off like a bullet. A lot of firepower on this offense, a lot of tough guys on this defense. And coming back from that is it needs to be lauded, whether no matter the level of opponent, because that was an opponent they should have decimated. But fun non-conference slate. That was good. I'm ready. I'm ready for some Sunbelt action though, huh? All right. Hey, are you on our Patreon page? Patreon.com/WinNowOrGetBent. Check out some Texas State articles. Got some good stuff going on up there. $5 a month helps this pod grow. Helps us just do a little bit more. So does our merch site, WNOGB.com. Get you a shirt like this one I'm wearing right here. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, YouTube, Win Now or Get Bent on there. Check out our Twitter account at Win Now or Get Bent. On Instagram at WNOGB. Like, subscribe, comment on all our videos. If you're running any of those parody accounts on Twitter, make an account for that parody and like and subscribe and all that. I saw Hornsby Train, that parody account, switch to Damphus Train. We fully support that here. That's a good change. Shout out to Malik Hornsby though as well. He deserves a fake account. But no one more so than Dr. Kelly Damphus. That's a good one. Thank you to TGC, Balcones Roofing and Remodeling, Thaddeus Watkins at Edward Jones in San Marcos, and Austin Patchmaster for sponsoring this episode, for hanging with us this season. I can't thank all of y'all enough. Thank you to the Wizard, Zachary Webb, for always making this pod look good. My man's working hard. Go check out his recap, that cinematic recap. It's great stuff, great angles on the Cole Wilson touchdown, and it's a lot of good stuff. The end clip of Malik Hornsby scoring that touchdown in that recap is fantastic. The way he goes up, you could see Hornsby and Finley. They share a high five and a celebration in the end zone, and Zach got a great angle on it. So go check that out. It's fantastic. And that's also on our YouTube channel, Win Now or Get Bent on YouTube. All right. And thank you guys for always tuning in. It's been a really fun season. Lots of great numbers. I know when the team's doing well, the numbers are good, but I know a lot of you sickos tune in even when the team isn't doing that well. So I'm extra happy for y'all that it's a great start. It's a lot of fun. I like talking about wins, even when I got to talk about a bad first half, and I got to nitpick a little bit. I nitpick, but I still love this team. This is fantastic. It's a good time, and y'all very much deserve it. And we're gonna keep bringing you. We're gonna keep upping the content game with what we're doing. You know, even though we've increased it this season, we want to do more. There's more we're gonna do. You're gonna see a little bit of that this week with an extra pod in the middle of the week. We'll see how that goes with our workflow. But I think we're at a good place where we can start increasing a lot of other stuff. Maybe even growing the staff. I guess I didn't mention this part real fast. WNOGBKEF@gmail.com if you want to join our team of sponsors. That's WNOGBKEF@gmail.com. All right, sickos. Thanks again. Win now or get bent.